Today's guest has one of the most interesting paths to real estate leadership that I've ever come across. Barb Hazelton is with us, and she manages the Coldwell Banker offices in both Greenwich and Stamford, overseeing a roster of 243 real estate agents. But before she got there into real estate leadership, she has a big resume. She sold chemicals for Monsanto in Chicago. She worked in media and production in the city for Broadway video and telepictures. She built a career recruiting digital sales talent, and most importantly, spent 14 years pounding the pavement as a residential and commercial real estate agent. And currently, she's serving as the chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals in Darien. She's also a former president of the Darien Board of Realtors. So as you're hearing, Barb brings a tremendous amount of perspective on this market that's operational, practical, personal, and I think everyone's really going to enjoy this conversation. So big thank you, Barb, for joining us today.
Thanks. Sounds interesting when you say it. Wow, thank you.
I try to make it lively. So let's tell a little about your story. Talk about how you did end up transitioning into real estate. Because nobody wakes up saying they want to be a realtor.
No, but everybody wakes up and says, I'm going to sell my home. I want to save the commission. That's how it all starts, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then, well, I did move a lot as a kid. And, when you move a lot, you kind of get the bug. And I remember we moved from, where did we move from? Williamsburg, Virginia to Houston, Texas. And my mom took me with her. And we were outside the Houstonian. And this woman pulled up to show us real estate in a white Jaguar. And she pops the trunk. And there's like steam that comes out of it because there was like a cooler with champagne. And she's like, hi, y'all, I'm Miss Ann. Let's go buy us a house today. And I thought, oh my God, it's so glamorous the way they make it look, real estate. And it's so not like that. It's such hard work. So I did kind of get bit by the bug way back then. And I'll say, like, I'm a much better manager than I am a realtor. I'll tell you.
So was it that experience you had buying your first home there with that realtor in Houston that made you say, you know what, I want to do this one day?
Not overly, but it piqued my interest in it. I just think I love homes and it's such a happy transaction, right? I mean, helping somebody find a home is so happy. I love that part of it. So, but mostly it was me selling my house, my first house in Darien. I wanted to do it myself. So I did that. And then a few other friends asked me to help them sell. And, it just starts.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, you mainly work in Stamford and Greenwich. Those are your main focused markets. Are there any others that you specialize in, or are those the main two?
Yeah. So I live in Darien. That was my primary market for a long time. So I've covered Darien and New Canaan. But I have heard you talk about this on past podcasts, but I do think it's important for a real estate agent to be a specialist in their market. So I am a big fan of, if you don't know a market, don't pretend to refer to somebody who is a specialist in that market. So I don't pretend to know markets that I don't know, but I
No,
do
that's
supervise Stanford and
that's
Greenwich.
important because some
Yeah.
realtors try to be that jack of all trades, right? And they try to work in areas and markets that they're not familiar with. And as we all know, many times, maybe even more often than not, it can turn out with negative situations or deals falling apart, right? That sort of
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, we're still old school in these markets. You've got to know the players. I mean, really, a success in a transaction still can largely come down to what attorney you bring in, how well you know the agent, how well you know how to get materials out of town hall. I mean, these are small markets still.
No, that's a great point. So let's shift to talking about the current market because it's crazy. Now, on our podcast here, we have listeners from all over the country. And in a lot of markets, as you know, they're not experiencing the low inventory like we are up here in Connecticut and in the Northeast. So talk
Yeah.
about in the markets that you mainly work in Darien and Stamford, in these areas that you're like day to day in the market. What are you seeing right now? Like, what's the general consensus of where the market's at? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Is it a buyer's market, seller's market? Where are we at?
Yeah, this is a really strong seller's market. It has been since COVID, really. It's 5 years ago. You've got 1/5 the inventory in markets like Stamford and Darien and Greenwich than we're used to seeing. So you've got people flooding these markets and waiting in rentals just to get that first house. really hard. I mean, if you're a buyer, you just, you've bid on 10, 12 things and you're just like either the point of giving up or you're throwing a gross amount of money at something just to get in. So we spend a lot of time with our buyers talking about like, how can we be the winner? How can we be in first or second place? What is the differentiator for our clients? And why is that? Like, why is our market different from the rest of the nation? We have a lot of investors and generational wealth in this market, which, it's a very wealthy market. Like our starter point, a lot of buyers out of the city are entering this market at a 2 million price point. Who are these people? But they are. They've got generational wealth that they're working with. A lot of them have had 2 jobs on Wall Street. You've just got a lot of money to play with. So, that's different than the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest, where an annual salary is $80,000. Here, that's a monthly salary. I mean, it's just not apples to apples. So,
No, that's a great point. I love
yeah,
that you're bringing that up because there's a lot of different buyers out there, and people look and say, how is that a first time buyer buying a $2.5 million home, right?
it's
And I
crazy.
see mainly the gifts from family, advanced inheritance, call it what you want, that generational wealth being passed down maybe earlier than it would have been 20 years ago, right? The market's
Yes.
different. So the buyers that you see that are coming up, because I know the areas you work, I would say majority from my experience are people that are moving up from the city to the suburbs, right? That's what
Yes.
they're doing. They can get a lot more money or a lot more for their money in Fairfield County than they can in New York City. So what type of buyers are you seeing? Is it a lot of first-time buyers that have been saving and saving and have this wealth behind them? Is it move-up buyers that have had a place in the city for 15 years that are finally selling that and moving kind of maybe a retirement or semi-retired or that sort of thing in Connecticut? Like, or is it investors that don't care about any of that, that are just like, I'm looking for a buck and I know a way to reposition this property and make money? What are you seeing?
That's a great comment. So I think you've got 3 pockets. We don't see a lot of people coming directly from Manhattan to us right now. Brooklyn, if we're going to see that group, it's Brooklyn. So we get
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn directly to Connecticut. That's interesting. We see a lot of people through Westchester County. Now, why is that? Taxes. So, like the tax base in Connecticut, so Greenwich gets a lot of attention because it's the lowest tax base in the state of Connecticut, 11%. 11% compared to Westchester County at like a 38%. You could buy a car every year for what you're paying in taxes in Westchester County. So people are like, oh my God, I'm going to Connecticut, but they don't really figure that out on first pass. They think I'll go to Westchester. That's a much shorter commute. Not really. I mean, I think if you really know the deal, you would go straight to Connecticut. So we get a lot of those buyers, lot of investors. Like the jig is up. People have figured out that if you can buy a multifamily or a single family house and rent it out, I mean, the rentals in a Stanford market, like you could get for a 2 or 3 bedroom single family home, 6,500, 7,000 a month. That's great rental income. So you
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of investor money in these markets. Um, the other thing you're seeing is a lot of like the older generation used to sell and move to Florida. They are not doing that. The older generation is staying in their homes much longer. Think about why. I mean, they're much healthier than they used to be. They can navigate stairs well into their 80s. They can retrofit these homes with elevators. They can also add accessory dwelling units to the home and make the home work for them in different ways. So maybe they're giving their large home to their kids and they're moving into the accessory dwelling unit, or they're moving into the $2 million condo in town. So instead of moving into the old person's home, they're not doing that. They're buying in these markets. Whereas in the past, we were like, wait a minute. Why is a 75-year-old competing with a first time buyer? They're going after the same kind of real estate. What's considered a starter home is also a downsizing option for people. So the buyer pool is just strengthened with all of that. And then on top of it, Greenwich is a cash market. 70% of our buyers last month were cash buyers. And that's not a new trend. I mean, if you look over last year, it was more like 60% of all the buyers. Mortgage lenders, and I know this is your business, you guys must be going crazy with us. We don't want mortgages. We have cash buyers. If they're going to get a mortgage, they're doing it after they're in the house. They're going to buy with cash and then back into a product later.
Yeah, no, that is what I'm seeing. I mean, I get calls every day from people looking up top lenders in Connecticut that are moving here from other areas. And The amount of people moving to Greenwich, Darien, New Canaan, I can count on one hand. It's very
Yeah.
little, very, very few. Because, like you said, those people already have their ducks in a row. They're borrowing from, a stock portfolio or getting that
Right.
advanced inheritance. These people own multiple properties. A lot of them, they've got equity other places that they're using. So those people don't need the mortgages right away, but I do get the delayed financing. Hey, we just bought a house for 2 million in cash. We need to pull that money out to go expand our business, do this, do that. Like there's a million reasons. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. People know, like the last deal I did was like in that area a year and a half ago in Southport. And you know what? It was a very like it was the bottom of the market in Southport, which back then was around 1 million. And it needed
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of work, a lot of work. So they were able to do it. But other than that, I don't see as much in Lower Fairfield people getting the mortgages because of the competition, like you're saying. So when you do have, other than the mortgage contingency issue, which you just brought up, let's assume that somebody doesn't have that issue, right? Where are you seeing buyers getting stuck right now in these markets?
The biggest thing is they're letting the tail wag the dog. Like they're saying things like, um, we never recommend waiving a building inspection. But if you can go in clean to a deal and say, I've got my contingencies out of the way. We're essentially cash buyers at this point. We're going to a quick close. You want to do that. So I think buyers get hung up on things like you're going for $1 million house and you're going to have to be at 1,050,000 to win this thing. And you know that because your realtor's got certain intel. The houses in the price point are trading at that. And they say, oh, I really don't want to go 50,000 over, whether it's they just mentally can't make the leap or they're like, our budget's 1 million. That's it. We can't afford it. That is a mistake. If you're going to live in that house for 5, 7, 9 years, $50,000 financed over the life of that loan is peanuts. It's a cup of Starbucks. It is not worth fighting over. Now, if you're going to flip that house in a year, that's a different discussion. But that's not what I'm talking about. If you're moving into a home for a lifestyle choice, do not let $50,000 be the reason you don't get that home. So I say to our agents all the time, this is a math problem. Go solve a math problem. Get on the phone with the mortgage lender and find out, is there a different product? Is there a different way to do this? Can we use points? Can we do something different? But do not pass on these homes. Do not let them lose 5, 6 bids and get discouraged with the idea of buying a home when really this is a wonderful thing. Let's.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. I definitely see that all the time. And especially when you're in the price point of 1 million plus, 50
Yeah,
grand, you're going to walk away from a dream home for 50 grand.
yeah,
So I agree from the standpoint that people need to kind of open up to the long term foundation of real estate, which is you're not buying this to flip it. You're not buying this to make a quick buck. If you can see your family living here for the next 5, 10, 15 years, then it's worth the extra little bit. I
it
love
is.
what you said about collaborating with the lender because I think most realtors don't do that. I spent some time yesterday with an agent that I'm working with figuring out how can we make this work. The price was 15,000 above the buyer's max qualification and we figured out how to make it work. The buyer had to get a gift from family, but they could, right?
Well
They could
done.
do it
Yes.
and they made the call, hey, I need an extra 15,000 to make this work. The family said yes. She's putting in an offer on a Sunday afternoon. Now, if you don't do that collaboration, you lose that deal because the offers were due last night at 7 p.m. So if your lender's either not available or doesn't give the clarity and can't do that, like you're now out of the running. But I think too many agents, they don't do that. Whether it's
Yeah.
knowledge, time, they just are like, oh, your max pre-approval is 1 million. This is going to go at 1.1. Okay, forget it. Like we're not even
Yeah.
looking at it. But I think you'd agree the more experienced agents with more track record, more transactions under their belt, they're pushing, they're figuring it out. They're trying to poke holes to make sure that every single stone is being unturned, right?
Agree. And I also think like our agents, when they have a listing, I say to them, I would get on the phone with the buyer's lender and make sure, are they on the brink of being qualified or are they more than qualified? Is this like a solid situation? They're like, we can do that. We can call the lender. I'm like, Not only can you, you should. So many of the deals are falling apart. Like you're finding that offer number one sounds good, but they really overshot or they got remorse. So we're ending up dealing with offer number two and number three all the time. And it's a good agent's job to keep deal two and three in play and quickly go to contract. So if you're a strong listing agent, you are getting that deal to the contract stage fast. And that means keeping two and three in play until that's done. And I would even say, I mean, look, you can walk away from a signed contract. You got to sue them to get that money. So I've seen that happen too. Nothing is done until it's done, until you are signed at the closing table. It is the agent's job to keep communication going, to keep options open, and to understand what can make a deal fall apart. The hard part isn't getting the offer. The hard part's keeping that offer together until you get to the closing table.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I would say I've had more agents reaching out to me lately than before because I have probably 60 pre-approved buyers out in various stages of their search. And I do get the calls from some listing agents. But you know what? I think I should get a call on 90% of the offers, right? I probably get a call on 40, maybe 50% in a good month.
Wow.
And I'm seeing like the accepted offers come through, and I'm like, I never got a call. I had no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
I think some of that and not to
Oh,
tout
sorry. I'm going to close my
myself,
window.
but
No.
if they put anything up online or they go and look online, sometimes they'll just key the lender in online. Hey, does this person have a good review or not? If they look me up and see I've got almost, 500 5-star ratings on Google, I think some agents just say, okay, this is a good lender. Like we see the reputation. They maybe do some checking
Yeah.
like you, looking at the podcast. What have I done before? Who is this guy? Right. And maybe
Yeah.
they get some comfortability, but I still don't feel like enough agents call.
Yeah. I think they don't know they can call. I mean, we do this thing. We do a coffee every Tuesday in my Greenwich office, every Wednesday in my Stanford office. And I felt like this as an agent. Like you feel like you're supposed to know way more than you really do know. And you don't want to ask what seems like a dumb question. But the
Hmm.
reality is every day I have questions. I'm a managing broker and every day something new comes up for me. So we try and create an environment where agents can ask dumb questions. There is no dumb
Hmm.
question. Your job as an agent is to say, like, if someone says to you, like, do you think I should waive the inspection? What you should say is, well, we never recommend that, but why are you asking? Well, because I think I'm going to lose this bid if I don't. Okay. Are you worried about that? Well, yeah, I've lost two already. Okay. Well, let's talk about that. What's going to lose us this bid? What can we do to ensure that you win this time? It's working it that way as opposed to being like, oh yeah, yeah, no, you got to waive it. If we don't waive that, we are dead in the water. You never want to answer something like that. You want to get to the root of the fear of your buyer. What's giving them anxiety? And those are the things we'll work in our coffee, and seasoned agents will advise, and newer agents have great suggestions for seasoned agents. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
very dynamic business.
So I know we're talking about deals going bad and having issues, but let's flip it for a second and talk about the smooth one. So assuming it's not cash, buyer comes in with financing, everything's good. What does that deal look like getting from contract to the closing table when it's as smooth as can be for you?
I love that because I think I say this to my agents a lot. I think good communication looks like, even if you don't have an answer, you say that to somebody. So you say, I know we're working on a deal. I'm still waiting for information for you. Just wanted to let you know I don't have it yet. We just did a deal where there was an agent from another brokerage with our agent, and it couldn't have gone smoother. And I asked them both. I actually called the agent at the other brokerage. I said, why did this go so well? And she said, Dorothy just was so on top of things. She had all her paperwork done in advance. So I did not have to go digging for records. All the public records were available. What she didn't have, she said, I don't have this, but here's what I do have. They gave us access to the home. She was clear about where things stood in the process. She, at the end of the day, she gave me updates like, I don't have this yet for you, but I'm still working on it. She was tough and negotiated on behalf of her seller, but honest and clear about it. Um, they both got what they needed out of the transaction by representing their seller and buyer's interests, but in a healthy way. I mean, it just couldn't have gone better. So I don't know. I think a lot of it is just communication, and when each party does their job. And I know you and I have been on the side where, and I say this to our agents, that look, you're going to enter that transaction where you're doing both sides because the other agent doesn't know what they're doing. Strap in, you're going to do it. It's going to happen in 90% of the deals that you
Yep.
are more experienced than the agent on the other side, and just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Don't even complain about it. But when you come across an agent who knows their role and understands that that real estate is a team sport, that the minute you enter a transaction, that agent on the other side is on your team. You have a fiduciary responsibility to your client, but you're on team, get this transaction done. And I think that's where the transactions go really well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the communication piece doesn't matter how difficult a deal is. If you're doing the right communication, everyone knows the
Yeah.
issues as they come up. I try to come from the standpoint of saying, I'm going to notify you of the status on the loan before you even have a chance to ask, right?
I
Appraisal's
love
in, you're finding out the appraisal's in, so you're not calling or texting, hey, is that appraisal in yet? No, you're getting notified. So, my biggest thing from that takeaway is when problems arise, which they do on most deals, we'll have some sort of issue arise, but immediately tackle that issue. Don't wait 3 days. Don't wait a week. Oh, let's wait till the appraisal comes in. Oh, let's wait for this or that. No, let's get on the phone. Let's collaborate immediately. Right. And sometimes for me, that means saying, hey, we don't have a problem just yet, but I see this setting up and I want to have a discussion with you about this, that, or the other, and just getting out in front, right? That means a lot.
I think that's a professional's job, anticipating problems and getting ahead of them, and not doing it in a way that creates chaos or um, fear. Your job is to keep the water calm, but just head problems off in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep it calm. Keep it calm. That's another thing. Like when you're picking resources for someone, like when we're dealing with a first time buyer, we kind of will joke here, like, okay, who's the right inspector for the first time buyer?
Mm-hmm.
Like you want an inspector that
Right.
keeps you calm, the right attorney. We know the players to engage for certain personalities, certain transactions. It's part of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I would totally agree with you on that side of it. One other thing or that you said that resonates is doing the listing agent's job or doing the other agent's job. What I've been finding a lot lately, specifically with listing agents, is that, it's not the easiest thing in the world getting a property under contract. I get it, a lot of work. But once the property's under contract, they go MIA. Like,
Yes.
my situation is when I am working, especially with a new agent I've never worked with, when I get that contract in, I'm immediately picking up the phone and trying to collaborate square one to say, hey, I got the contract. I'm on this. I'm getting the buyer's loan into underwriting right now. I just want to make sure this is the best phone number for the appraiser to reach. I'm getting through like a checklist of stuff square one. So, number one, they know that I'm on top of it. Number two, we can move that loan 3 steps ahead with one phone call, right? I don't need to do the back and forth email. Just get on the phone with me for 5 minutes. Let me make sure I've got all my ducks in a row. And then I don't need to bother you pretty much at all the rest of the transaction. But would you believe most of these agents, they won't pick up the phone. If
Yeah.
they do get my
Yeah.
voicemail, they're texting back. They're not calling back. It's, hey, yes, it's yes or no via text. It's not the collaboration. And hey, I get it, but that's not the way this is supposed to be. And it could be better, it could be smoother if they were more collaborative. And I get it, they just did a lot of work, but your job's not done till the buyer's at the closing table and the seller as well. And I could tell you a few stories this year about listing agents that literally got the property under contract and then left the country. Left
Oh
the
my God.
country,
Yeah.
okay? And they're texting at 3 a.m. because they're in Belize or Guatemala or something across, I had one in Europe for a week. I get it. We all want to do vacationing and all that, but there's a right and a wrong way to do it. There's a professional and an unprofessional way. And I bring that up to you because you manage all these agents. And like from a lender's standpoint that does 10 to 15 transactions a month, these are the issues that I see, dealing with dozens and dozens of agents. And as you mentioned, Barb, and I'll reiterate, the ones where it goes smooth are the ones where we collaborate, the ones where we're communicating. That's the big
Yes.
deal for sure. So what's the biggest thing other than communication that you see kill deals?
Probably not having the right team around you. We, Greenwich is a funny market. You probably want to use like a Greenwich attorney, someone who understands Greenwich language. Like we kind of have our own, like go straight to contract and
Hmm.
no money down kind of things like that. It can matter. Just like dealing with town hall, stuff like that. I would say all markets have their nuances. I think you want to use someone in market who understands and appreciates the market specifics. Um, I also think like the right team wins you deals. So like when we're trying to win a bid, if when we're representing buyers, we're trying to win a bid. I say like get the right attorney, get the right inspector, and get on the phone to your point with the listing agent and ask questions. And you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked at what they'll tell you that they shouldn't tell you just by having a conversation.
Hmm.
Our agents win bids all the time when they are not the highest bidder, but they have the right package, the right terms, the right offering. It's not about the highest number. If you could say to somebody, like, well, what are they really after? Well, they kind of want to rent back, they have no place to go. Got it. Okay. So is there anything else? Well, I mean, they really don't want any contingencies. They're a little nervous about this oil tank situation. Okay. Okay. I mean, you're just trying to get some data that you're not going to hear through a text exchange. So I know we just really emphasize that. And we have great attorney partnerships here that we really embrace. We do a lot of events with our attorney partners and our mortgage lender partners. We have in-house mortgage lenders, but we're not exclusive to that at all. We recognize that one shoe doesn't fit all. So we have partnerships with everybody, and we let our clients, dictate what makes sense. But that really matters, the right combination of the right team, and that the attorney is talking to the mortgage lender and talking to us. And we'll say to the attorneys, we have the attorneys into our coffee and we're like, okay, what do you need from us when it's deal time? What do you want to see from the agent? They're like, okay, I hate talking to agents, here's what I want to see. Send me this and this in an email. Or I love talking to the agent, I'd like you to get on the phone with me and send me this. But there are specifics that they want to see that help them do their job better. So we need to know that we're all on the same team. Same with inspectors. Okay, inspectors, how do you like to work? What can we expect? Uh, so that kind of stuff. We are really engaged with our partners.
You got to be a team player. And again, no matter what part of the transaction you're in, like some people just feel like, okay, I'm doing my job and I'm done. But no,
Yeah, no,
that is not how it goes smooth at all. And there's a lot of times where I'll see that they'll have an inexperienced agent because, like you guys saying, we'll do whatever's best for our client. Same thing with me. I don't have any realtors that I say you have to use. No, it's whoever you guys come with, we'll work with them. Unfortunately, sometimes that means we're dealing with someone who doesn't have a lot of experience. This may have been their first deal or their first couple deals, right? So it's unfortunate, but those people might get a bunch of offers that get denied over and over because they're looking at them going, who is this agent that they're working with,
yes,
right? They have no idea. And same thing with the lender. They might be working with a no-name lender, that sort of thing. So, like, even having one link that's not in place on the chain of your team, it will ruin the transaction. And I guess the proof positive of that is buyers that have been looking for 6 months with one realtor, then their buyer agreement is up. They go and find another agent. Maybe they take a recommendation, and within a week or two, they're under contract on the first or the second property that they put an offer on. Same buyer, same pre-approval, different agent, different strategy, and that's huge.
it is huge. We try and pair our new agents up with seasoned agents. When you're going in for a bid war or something, you really need some gravitas, some strength behind you, because it does matter. I mean, they will look at who's on the other side of the transaction. So we pair you up now. And I always recommend, like, give them a referral fee for that. Like, their name means something. Their years in the business means something. So we do some of that.
Now, speaking about the financing, I know you oversee a lot of agents, so you probably have more perspective on this than any others. But like when you look at, let's say, the last 6 months of the deals that have closed in your offices, do you see a lot often where the financing falls apart towards the end of the process? Not in the beginning, but within a week or two of closing, that you're thinking a deal is done, and then financing falls apart, buyer loses their job. There's a zillion reasons. So I want to ask you, when you see that happen, what is normally the reason why that deal falls apart? Is it an unresponsive lender? Is it the buyer losing their job? They spent their down payment money? Like, what is the real reason that that happens that you see? Because on my end, I don't
Yeah.
rarely see it at all because I'm on the
Yeah. Because
financing
you're
side.
it.
So thank God,
Yeah.
knock on wood, that we're doing enough upfront work that that doesn't happen. But the time or two that it does, it's usually a job issue where, we lost our job.
We had a deal fall apart last week because of a job issue, and they were able to move the closing up to get around that. That's unusual, but that happened. And then, honestly, mortgage lenders that are kind of shifty. I mean, kind of shifty. You want to work with a reputable lender, and that's why I say, like, get on the phone with them and have a conversation. And if it doesn't smell right, encourage your buyer to get a backup, uh, quote, because you're putting everything rides on that, right? If your financing falls apart, this deal is not going to happen. So I do think we use the sniff test a lot, and it happens especially with for a lot of foreign buyers.
Mm-hmm.
Greenwich and Stanford are big foreign markets. So in fact, like 23% of Greenwich is foreign born. So we have a lot of foreign investment money here. Like, oh, we're using this lender out of Argentina. We're like, that is always like a bit of a flag. But in those cases, we'll say, well, I would have a cash backup for this, because if this falls apart in the final hour, you're not going to.
Now, do you find that the buyers that you guys work with in your offices generally are already pre-approved when they come in the door to look at homes, or are they still looking for a lender?
Mostly, a lot of them have private financing through like private banks, a lot of that, or their cash. But we really won't take somebody out to look at homes unless they're pre-approved. So we will encourage them to go through that process, because you're wasting your time. It's very frustrating for a buyer. They're gonna find something they like, and then they have no chance of participating in
Mm-hmm.
that process. So we really encourage them to go through that before we take them
Most
out.
definitely. So I know that you guys have the, affiliated lender there, as you said, Guaranteed Rate Affinity, I
Yeah.
believe, right? And I see
Yes.
their name all over. They're a very big retail lender, a lot of local presence. But putting the name aside for a second, just pretend that all loan officers all work for the same company. And what do you look for in the specific individual, the loan officer that you or your agents are going to refer? You're looking for in that loan officer to make sure it's a smooth process?
Well, quick pre-approval, and some kind of flexibility. Like, if you find that, like, there's only one product, like this is it, we're locked into just this, that is a little scary for me, because you find a lot of houses aren't appraising. And if you need an appraisal gap or something to cover the difference, and there's no other product to maneuver to, or so I like a mortgage broker a lot as an option on top of just a lender. So maybe that's something to
No,
consider.
I can speak to that because I was in, retail lending for basically over 2 decades. And it really felt like we were at the mercy of the bank, as you said,
Yeah,
only these products. That
yeah,
was, I would say, 50% of the reason why I moved from retail to wholesale mortgage broker is because of the access to products, like you were just saying. I mean, a bank only has what they have access to. And
that's
some of
it.
the mortgage banks, I will, to their credit, say they have maybe two or three warehouse lines where if one investor won't take it, okay, we can flip it to this one. But that only gets you so far, right? In this market, with as complex and crazy as some of the transactions are, and a lot of the buyers, as you said, they might be foreign, they might have weird jobs, they have, weird income scenarios, things like that. You need to have a toolbox with every tool in there, right?
Yeah,
And I used to have two or three tools. Now on the wholesale mortgage broker side, I have like 30 tools that I can use, right?
I think
So it's
that
a lot
matters.
more.
Yeah,
For me, what it's meant is higher volume, being able to help more families, deals that I would have said no to a year ago, 2 years ago. Now I'm able to say yes to. So I completely agree with that. And I think too many people just do their local bank or the private banking, or, hey, my mom referred me to her lender that did her loan 18 years ago. I respect relationships, but in this market, you need to be nimble. You need to have somebody that has all bases covered. And I
Agree.
like having in the arsenal for any realtor a mortgage broker that's kind of like a jack of all trades when it comes to lending, so that they can help you navigate, hey, this isn't going to work conventional. You're wasting your time. We need to look at this product instead and
Hmm.
completely pivot. I know we used to try to fit that square box into a round hole, right? And try to figure out a way, and it just doesn't work. You need access to all the loan products.
I agree.
So, communication, you said, is really important. What
Yeah.
is or how important it is to you and your agents to have a lender that actually picks up the phone, is in responsive?
Oh, I really important. I think it's really important. I watch how our agents go back to the same lenders over and over, and I'll ask, why? And they're like, well, they make me a priority. Like they always pick up my calls on the weekends, Friday nights. And I mean that, let's face it, that's when real estate is done. Real estate is not done 9 to 5 on a Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon. It's off hours. And these mortgage lenders that jump through hoops for you, um, it makes a big difference, you know.
Definitely. So if a buyer came into you or your agents, let's say tomorrow, buyer walks in, they need to move fast, they're ready to go, but they're not pre-approved. They're just, hey, I'm ready. What would you need from the loan side to make that work?
Um, I don't know. I don't qualify them anymore, but we'd probably have them start with GRA. If they had nobody to begin with, we'd have them start with GRA and do a power bid process. And the power bid is an underwriting tool. So within 24 hours, they could be underwritten. Now, some people may not want to go to that extent if they're not really
Mhm.
serious about the house because it does pull on your credit. But that's bank. That's like going out into the market as a pre-approved cash buyer, and we find that that makes a big difference. Like, then you can really waive the mortgage contingency. You're underwritten, so then you're just down to inspection issues.
Yeah, no,
So
that's simple and clear answer for sure. So pre-underwritten, especially in this market, is a big deal. And I would say I agree with that, and you can also figure out how serious the buyer is. How much are they willing to do? Are they willing to
yeah,
go through and do that credit pull, give all those documents, go through underwriting,
yeah,
that's a big thing. And I know for the lender, they like it because it definitely creates loyalty. It's very rare
yes.
that someone's going to go through all that and then at the 11th hour go, you know what? I'm going to get a better rate over at Bank of America.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. And if they're borrowing money from their parents, we also will say things like, you need to talk to an attorney sooner than later and find out like tax implications, accounting issues. Sometimes the funds have to be there for so many days. Like what are you going to demonstrate for proof of funds? We have a lot of those issues. Like what qualifies as proof of funds? So, kind of just getting that financing in order. And then, again, backing, we'll say things like, if you can pay cash and then back into a product later, I think that's a smart way to
That's
win the.
huge. No, anyone that can do that right now, that's a no-brainer scenario
Yeah.
for sure, especially in the markets you're talking about. So I know you mentioned, referring your preferred lender up front, and then you have a couple, maybe other lenders that you and your office have worked with for one-off scenarios. But let me ask you one final question, which is, what would it mean for you and your offices that you guys run with Coldwell Banker if you had one lender that could do it all, one that knew it all from conventional to non-QM to FHA and government, someone that you could send anyone to and know that it would get done? Is that a value add?
Probably not. I mean, it sounds good, but I think I would never single source on something like that. Just from a relationship standpoint, I think it's always good to have multiple irons in the fire. And we have a great relationship with GRA, but there's limitations to that. So no, no. Same with
Okay.
attorneys. Same with all of it.
Yeah, I
Same with
mean, I
all.
agree. You want to have a specialist for sure. At the same point, you need more than one tool in the toolbox. So there definitely can be, some advantage as far as that goes. So really appreciate you taking the time out, Barb. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end. So I want to give a big thank you to Barb Hazelton for joining us today and for being so open and generous with your insights. And when somebody's lived as many chapters as you have, sold real estate, led agents, served in the community, and built something like that, You know every conversation is going to have substance, so I really like to say that
Oh,
this one
thanks.
absolutely delivered. If you're an agent listening to this in the Greenwich and Stamford market, or you're thinking about buying or selling a property, reach out to Barb and her team. They're definitely worth knowing. And if you're going through a life transition and you need a steady, experienced hand, you can also check out Barb's old website there, thesingleprocess.com.
Ah,
As
yeah.
always, if you have mortgage questions, reach out to me. I'd love to help. Grab a call on my calendar at robgw.com. And Barb, can you go ahead and give your contact info for those that want to work with or reach out to you?
Yeah, I've got a website, barbandgreenwich.com. And then you can always, if you Google me, Barb Hazelton, you'll see my cell phone number. We're always looking for the right people, not necessarily more agents, but the right agents that fit with our culture. So
And
good to
if
know.
today's episode was valuable to our listeners, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave us a review, share it with someone that could use it, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take
Thanks,
care.
Rob. Take care.